As we approach the holiday season, I often enjoy the opportunities that I get to do a little bit of cooking or baking. And this year, being here in New York still, I have the opportunity to make our Thanksgiving Day dessert and our Thanksgiving Day homemade rolls. So today, I'm going to give you my recipe for tiramisu, which is an Italian recipe or an Italian dessert consisting of some of the best things on the planet. So without further ado, let's head inside and make some dessert. See you there. Good morning, boys and girls, kids and campers, and welcome to this edition of Dessert with Dennis. This is not something I will do regularly, but during my Coffee with Cancer stream on Monday, I mentioned that I was going to be doing some tiramisu for our Thanksgiving dinner. And my dear friend, my dear sweet friend, Cynthia Swearingen, asked me for my recipe. And so rather than giving her my recipe specifically, I'm going to make tiramisu today here in my friend's kitchen. And I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. So, you'll need a few things. Let me get the list together and put it up on the counter, and I'll be right back with you. Okay guys, so as with any kind of cooking, you always want to make sure you wash your hands first. So I'm going to take a quick moment, wash my hands off, make sure that they're good and clean before I start working with my ingredients. And anytime you handle anything different, wash your hands before you go back to cooking. Dry your hands and be ready. Okay guys, so we have to separate our eggs, our yolk from our whites. I'm sure you all out there know how to do this, but in the event that you don't, I'm going to show you. So we crack our egg. You don't want to crack it so hard that it goes everywhere, like when I make my eggs for breakfast. But I pour it out into my hand and pinch the whites off until I have a nice clean yolk, just like so. And I put it in my bowl. You need 6 egg yolks in order to make this particular recipe that I'm using today. Wash your hands before you touch the camera. Wash your hands after you touch the camera. We'll see you on the next step. So the main and most important thing when I'm baking in the kitchen is to get all of my ingredients out, get them all ready, and get everything to room temperature, because it will mix better once you start putting it together. It'll give you a more even, stirred up mix, as opposed to trying to put something cold into something hot. So we're going to continue on. We want to get all of our ingredients set out, and we'll get going. Okay guys, so for my espresso, I'm going to use the Keurig to make my espresso, and this is what I'm using today. If you can read that, I surely cannot, because everything is in the wrong direction. This is Lava Zaza Espresso Italiano, baby. Alright, we're going to run it through the Keurig and make sure we have plenty of espresso to put on our ladyfingers. So while our espresso is back here brewing and cooking away, I just wanted to show you, this is what we're using for our mascarpone. if you're desperate for a good recipe or a recipe, I don't know how good it is, they do have a recipe on the side of the container for tiramisu. This is not the recipe we're using today. We need to have ladyfingers, and in most cases, I would make my own with the egg whites that we've cleaned off from our egg yolks, but we're having a little oven problem today, so we're not going to turn the oven on. It could mean the death of us all. Okay, so we have our sugar, 3/4 of a cup, 2/3 of a cup of whole milk out and getting to room temperature. We have a little bit of cocoa powder. We have some nice, simply organic vanilla. And the star of the show, and my favorite part of making this dessert, we have some barcati. Now, I found out this just the other day, and it's been a while since I've made tiramisu, but apparently they don't make barcati 151 anymore, which really kind of bites it because that was like the best of all. But we're going to use the Superior Clear White rum from barcati to finish this recipe off. And I'll be back with you real soon. Okay guys, for this part of the video, we're going to mix our sugar and our eggs, and then we're going to move to the stove and add our milk. We just want to get it blended up a little bit before we put the milk in. So sugar and eggs in, and whiskey mixy them. Oh, that's so nice. Now it's going to be all gritty and grainy, but that's okay. You just want to try to get it blended together before you put it on the stove with a little bit of milk additive. And then we're going to let this sit to cool for about an hour before we continue with it. Now, if you notice this pan is really cool. It has a rounded edge. Rather than the normal pan, it has a squared edge, so nothing is getting stuck in the edges. This is my friend Sam's, and she's got it going on. Let's move over to the stove and heat this baby up. Alright, so in this step, we're going to have our heat at medium. We are a gas stove. We're going to add our milk. We're going to stir consistently or constantly until this comes to a light boil. Okay guys, so at this point, we're in a boil. It's a slow boil. You can feel the mixture starting to thicken. You do not want to overcook it or your eggs will go bad. And don't listen to the people in the background because they don't know anything. Yeah, don't lick the spoon. All right. Okay, now that we've had a little help and commentary from our friends in the background, don't lick the spoon. That's the key of the day. We've covered our mix with cellophane. We're going to pop it in the refrigerator for about an hour to let it cool down. And while it's cooling, we're going to continue with the other aspects of this recipe. We'll see you soon. Okay, so while things are cooling in the refrigerator, and I'm waiting in the interim, I'm going to go ahead and mix our main ingredients for this particular recipe, which is going to be a touch of rum, now in my mom's recipe, it was a jigger. A jigger of rum would be about 1.5 shots of rum added to the espresso. So I'm going to do 1 shot and a little bit to this first batch. We're going to mix that up a little bit and we're going to add it to our ladyfingers. Okay, now most people are going to do their tiramisu in a in a pan, like a 7 by 11 or 7 by 13 pan. I am not doing that. I'm doing individual servings. So we're gonna put a couple of these ladyfingers on the bottom of each cup, and I'll break them up and get them in there. One ladyfinger per dish. And because we want to do individual servings, so each person will get their own personal cup of tiramisu. So now you can do this in a pan, like a 7 by 11 pan. You don't have to do it this way, but this is how I will do this today and any other time that I make tiramisu. And just like that, we have 12 servings of ladyfingers in our little solo cups. Now, you can pour the coffee over, or you can drizzle it. I don't know which way is better, but you don't want to oversaturate because it'll become mushy. So we're going to just kind of drizzle it with a brush. And, oh, it smells so good. Oh my gosh. I may have to sample some of this just to ensure that it's the right consistency. Or maybe I can have my buddy Dean come out here and show us just how good it really is. Oops. Alright, don't do that. We'll be back in a minute after we all saturated up. Okay, so we're going to get started on our whipped cream. We're going to use a half a teaspoon of our vanilla extract. We're going to put it right in there into the heavy cream, and then we're going to whip that. I'm going to let it come up to room temperature a little bit before I start whipping on it. It'll make it better. Okay, so here we are going to slowly start to whip this heavy cream into we're going to try anyways. Whip this into whipped topping. I may not have been the right bowl. Okay guys, so our egg mixture has set up pretty nicely. We're going to add our mascarpone to it and mix it in until it's smooth. Put that whole package in there. And I'll be back with you in just a minute. That looks pretty darn good. And we're going to start assembling now. So now, my first batch of whipped topping, actually, I might have whipped it a little too much. And so, consequently, I made a new batch. And we'll have some whipped butter to go with our homemade bread on Thanksgiving Day. In the meantime, dip a little bit of this whipped topping over top of our ladyfingers and mascarpone. We'll put in another layer of ladyfingers, another layer of mascarpone, and a little bit of cocoa topping. Now again, most of you will probably not do these individual serving sizes. You'll do it in a larger pan and let people cut their own slices. I like to do things a little differently. And so we have the individual personal desserts Gives it that kind of a special touch. We'll make sure we get those all covered over before we put on our next layer. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'll see you real soon on the next section. Okay, so we have our second layer of ladyfingers in place. We're going to go ahead and drizzle some loaded coffee or espresso over top of them, and finish it up. And I'll have a screenshot for you here in a little bit, showing you what it all looks like when it's done. Okay, boys and girls, we're pretty much done for this particular recipe for today. I'll show you what we got here. Some of them are a little bit light on the second dose of mascarpone and egg mix. And those will be for me to sample on later on today. I'll get a good picture of it for you. And you probably won't see me doing dessert again for a while, but this has been Dessert with Dennis. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'll see you the next time around. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy the day. On one final note, let me just say that while we have these all made up in their little individual containers, I'm going to cover each one with cellophane. I'm going to drop them in the refrigerator. These will be ready to be sampled in 4 to 6 hours, although for our purposes, our tiramisu will vegetate in the refrigerator for a couple of days. Today is Tuesday. On Thursday, we'll have Thanksgiving dinner, and then these will be brought out for desserts. So they'll get a couple of days to stew and ferment, which is fine. In order to sample, they have to refrigerate for 4 to 6 hours before you start eating on them. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed the show.